same in music. Like what is natural. We what the music demands, and I try to do my best.
A couple of years ago, I had a friend, David Barnby, and he has a thing about Black Arrow and Blue Streak, which he considers were excellent rockets which the Heath government should never ever have destroyed, and as such he dived down the Public Records Office to see if he could find some information on Blue Streak and Black Arrow. Whilst he was there, he stumbled across, completely by accident, a particular document. He produced a considerable amount of paperwork, approximately 500 papers altogether, all on government-headed note paper, all with Central Registry and Public Records Office stamps on it, and a lot of it signed around the margins and in various other places by the people who'd actually handled this paper and taken part in the process. So he gave me a CD. He said to me, "Read this, it's of historical interest." So I read it. Halfway through reading it with my historian's hat, I suddenly found that I was wearing my police officer's hat and thinking, my God, this is sedition. I was looking at a set of documents produced by the Heath government in the Heath era and at Heath's instigation, which evidenced the fact to me as a police officer that Heath in fact had set up a conspiracy, and the object of that conspiracy was to subvert the constitution of this country, the crime at common law of sedition, and to hand this country over to a foreign power, the EEC, the crime at common law of treason. What did they do? In 1971, the Foreign Office, in a collection of papers which are titled in the Public Records Office FCO 30/1048, told the Heath government that if they signed us up to the European Economic Community, within 3 decades, we would in fact have lost our constitution and ceased to be an independent sovereign state and would merely be a region of Europe. That would mean the end of our constitution and the end of this country as a sovereign state. Now, if you subvert the constitution, and what has happened is that our constitution has been progressively subverted over a 30-year period, as more and more of our own constitution has been surrendered to European legislation which has been foisted upon us, then in fact that is the criminal offence at common law of sedition. It is an offence which carries life imprisonment and is the next most serious offence to treason. If you do what Heath set out to do, which was to hand this country over to a foreign power, that in fact is the common law offence of treason, because you are destroying the country that we live in. We are not talking here about the murder of an individual, we're talking about the murder of an entire country. Far, far more serious a crime even than murder. How did they do it? Well, they organised breakfast meetings at the Connaught Hotel in London. And at those meetings, which were attended by government ministers, members of Parliament, the British Council for the European Movement, and senior people from all of the national media, including BBC and ITV. At those meetings, they persuaded the media people to remove all of their frontline anti-EEC reporters. Probably the most prominent of these would have been Jack DiMagno from Radio 4. They actually put all of the prominence on those reporters who were in favour of the EEC. But not content with that, the Foreign Office set up a body, a department within a department, and that department produced thousands and thousands of letters which was sent to the central offices of all of the three major political parties, the Tories, the Labour and the Liberal parties, and to the British Council of the European Movement, who got these letters signed as though they purported to come from people like you and I, and they all said the same thing. What a wonderful idea this EEC is, and how we've got to actually join as soon as possible. These were then sent off to the letters columns in the newspapers who got them published. The government committed other crimes as well, which are documented on these papers. For example, they suborned an awful lot of civil servants, quite a few of whom attended the breakfast meetings at the Connaught Hotel, some of whom were set to work writing letters. This is the criminal offence of misfeasance in public office. They failed to show all of the money that they spent, or some of the money that they spent, on any of the accounts. Now that's just a simple, easy, criminal, fraudulent accounting, and is the least serious of all of these offences. And the other offence they committed was they invited a Frenchman over here, Jean Monnet, in order to help the government to carry out all of this criminal activity. Now that's an offence under Section 1, Paragraph 5 of the 1911 Official Secrets Act. Now, all of these things put together evidence very, very clearly that the government of Edward Heath, in connivance with the leaders of the other political parties, otherwise they could not have got their central offices to sign the letters going to the papers, were heavily involved in betraying this country. Because that is what treason is. Treason is a betrayal of trust. They were elected to office, they were trusted by the British people to govern the British people in a manner in which the British people wanted to be governed. And they deliberately set out to betray these people and to hand them over to a system of government which in fact is completely alien to us. Government are trying to repeal the Treason Acts, but I've written to them and we've had a small victory, because the Law Commission look at these laws, and I emailed them and I said to them, Parliament may pass any laws that they wish to protect the sovereign and the constitution of this country, but to repeal those laws places the sovereign and the constitution at grave risk and is an act of treason. If you are, as the Law Commission, recommending to Parliament that they repeal those laws, then that in fact constitutes a conspiracy to commit treason. And I and a number of my colleagues would be only too happy to walk into police stations and make allegations that the Law Commission officers are committing a conspiracy to commit treason. You want to spend the rest of your life in jail? You go ahead, you recommend the repeal of the treason law. It took them 3 weeks to reply to that one. You can guarantee that for those 3 weeks they've been on the telephone to various legal authorities and they've been charging through every legal book they could find. And then they came back and they said, we have no plans in the near future to look at the treason laws. I'm English, free-born. I was born with rights. I was born with freedoms. Those rights and freedoms go back and predate Alfred the Great. Nobody on this planet has the right to remove those rights and freedoms from me. Nobody. And I do not have the right to give them up, because I will be giving them up for my children and my grandchildren, and they are not mine to give up. I look after them for those that follow on behind. And that is what we have to do. We have to look after this country. We have to get it back, and we have to make sure that it operates for those that we leave behind.